This video is all about the Sony FX30, a rumored camera supposed to be coming out this month. We have updated specs and we have a leaked video purportedly showing the FX30 and its overall design. Details coming up, but first, I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Yesterday, I published a report coming out of Sony Alpha Rumors saying that the FX30 is coming this month in late September, and it's going to have a 12 megapixel sensor. It's going to be a cinema camera, basically an APS-C version of the FX3. Well, apparently that's not exactly correct. It's supposed to have a 26 megapixel sensor, not a 12 megapixel sensor. It's still going to be an APS-C censored camera, and the price is going to be around $2,500 US. Most likely $2,498 or something like that. And it's definitely going to be very similar in design to the FX3. And how do we know that? Well, take a look at this video clip here. Right as Peter Lindgren walks by the mirror, you can see the outline of what looks to be a Sony camera. And then you notice that panel where the mic is mounted. And this looks very much like an FX30 or what an FX30 could look like. And then later on in the video, he says this.
Well, this camera is a...
That's right. It's an unannounced camera. I'm kind of surprised that Sony's allowing him to play around with it like this. And I do kind of like teasing. I like this kind of teasing. I don't like the teasing that Lumix does where, you know, Sean will bend over and then on the back of his shirt is some sort of notice and you don't really know if that's hinting at something that's coming up in the future or if it's just something referencing to something that happened in the past. But here, he's definitely walking by the mirror. You can see it's an FX30 or an FX3 type camera. But then later on in the video, he says, yeah, you know what? I'm shooting with an unannounced camera. So I'm willing to say that this is the FX30. So I know this is YouTube. And the quality that you're watching is significantly lower than what we creatives are able to produce and see on our screens before we export or upload to YouTube. And I can tell you that so far this looks like a pretty decent camera. However, as one of you pointed out yesterday, will it have waveforms, vector scopes, and support for LUTs? It's a cinema camera after all, an entry level, but still at around $4,000 for the full frame version and still $2,500 for the APS-C. To me, this is something I would really, really like to see, a support for waveforms and vector scopes and the ability to load in LUTs. Yeah, and I know you would too, Jesse. To be able to load in LUTs and to be able to have vector scopes and waveforms, to me, is essential to a cinema camera. I'm kind of frustrated with the Canon EOS R5, another $4,000 camera that's able to shoot quite well, but the problem is I don't have any vector scopes or waveforms, and I have to use my own sort of experience to be able to determine if I'm pulling the right exposure. And yes, I can put a Ninja 5 on the top of it, and that helps. I can nail it every time. It's got waveforms, vector scopes, false colors. And not only does it have waveforms, but it has multicolor waveforms. So I can actually tell if I see it peaking in a certain area, I can tell if it's me, my face peaking, or if it's just a white hat that I'm wearing. And it really makes a huge difference. Now, I generally don't do that when I'm doing run and gun work because, well, I'm able to use my experience to get the exposure right most of the time, and it just adds extra weight. And I like the way my studio is set up here, so I don't really have to do anything. So when I woke up rather late this morning and I saw this news, well, everything was already set up on the tripod. The Ninja was there, the camera was there, the tripod, lighting, everything. The only thing I had to do is put these multicolored lights back on the shelf because, well, I have to charge them after the end of every video. But as far as a checklist goes, it keeps things simple. Having waveforms and vector scopes on the FX30, the ability to load in LUTs so we can see what the final is going to look like, to me, that's very important. We do know that the FX30 is going to have similar specs to the FX3, and we certainly know what the specs of the FX3 are going to be like, so that's why I really wonder if we're going to see waveforms and vector scopes. It would be something really nice to have in the camera. So are you interested in getting the FX30 or even the FX3? Since Canon had Viltrox pull their RF lenses, I've received so many comments. I mean, a ton of comments from Canon customers saying they're tired of Canon, they're sick of it, they're thinking of moving to Sony. And this FX30, if you're one of those Canon customers that's tired of Canon playing around with the cripple hammer that's basically told Viltrox and other third-party RF lens makers to stop producing lenses, are you interested in the FX30? A camera that costs somewhere around $2,500, most likely $2,498.98, would you be interested in getting this camera if it's got similar specs to the Sony FX3? I mean, basically, or sorry, the FX3. I said it correctly. I keep mixing up those two names because they're very similar. But going back to this camera, it's using an APS-C, which gives you very similar look to a Super 35, similar crop. Now, it's a Sony, so that crop is probably going to be a 1.5, whereas Canon, it's a 1.6. But a very unique camera, something I would love to have my hands on. And maybe you will too very shortly. So it's supposed to be announced. What's with me? I can't speak this morning. It's supposed to be announced later this month. Later this month. And Sony Alpha Rumors does a pretty good job of getting things correct. Now, sometimes they're completely way up, but if you pay attention to their posts, what they'll quite often say is, hey, I'm going to give you this information. These guys haven't been validated. I don't know anything about it. And let us decide if it's interesting enough. But when he does have validated information, well, Andrea will tell us that. And I had him on this channel many, many months ago. And we were talking about the Sony a7R5 and whether it would have a 100 megapixel sensor or not. And he said, well, I can't validate anything like that. I don't have anything to tell me that. But I was able to get him to say that, you know, it certainly makes sense that it's a possibility, very strong possibility. And he's since come out and said that it's either going to have a 61 megapixel sensor or it's going to have a 95 megapixel sensor, and that's full frame, the Sony a7R5. And for those of you who said that no way it's going to have more than 4K 60, it's not going to beat the Sony Alpha 1 in terms of specs, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one there. I can't see Sony just with about a year or two after announcing the Alpha 1 coming out with another camera that's going to beat it and cost less. It really doesn't make any sense. And the Alpha 1 kind of provides us with a reality check on what a lot of these cameras can have. So when we get really wild and crazy and amazing specifications for upcoming Sony full frame cameras, all we have to do is look at the Alpha 1 and we can see, yeah, okay, this is what the Alpha 1 has. We're going to have an a7R5 that produces much better video? Probably unlikely. But if you want to stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors, well, this is one of the best places to do it. I cover Sony, I cover Lumix, Panasonic, OMD, Nikon, Canon, everybody. So if you want to stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors, go ahead and subscribe. But please also make sure you click that notifications button and choose all notifications. So that way, as soon as I publish a new video, you can stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors. That's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.